Hello everyone, it is I, Chastity White Rose, and it's time for a short chess lesson, is what I plan to do here. Because I've been working on school for hours and I'm really exhausted, so I need to de-stress by explaining some chess concepts and also show you my next book project. Because I just published Chastity's Chess Chapters. It's a paperback, but also an ebook. You can find it on Amazon, Smashwords, many other platforms actually. I've covered that in previous videos. But what I'm going to show you today on the Lichess analysis board is I'm going to show you how I'm trying to go about writing my next book, which is going to be all about the Queen's Gambit opening. So I have started on a basic manuscript of my next book, and it includes some pictures introducing to the Queen's Gambit, why it's played, and what the common first responses by Black are to it. Now, here's the idea. Almost every move that Black could make in response to the Queen's Gambit could turn into a chapter. And that's a lot of chapters. And every response that White makes after Black makes the response can turn into several sections of that chapter. Because if Black accepts the Queen's Gambit, then it's going to result in a whole different game than a Queen's Gambit declined or Slav defense or Albin counter gambit. Like, there's just a lot of information that I have to cover. I will not succeed. I will not succeed at covering everything that can happen in the Queen's Gambit because the chess moves are infinite, you have to realize. So, what am I going to do about it? I'm going to limit it to 100 pages, just like I did with my first book. I'm going to try to get as much content about the Queen's Gambit opening for both the white and black sides into 100 pages for my next book. That's my goal. Okay, anyway. Right now, though, I'm starting out with the analysis board because with the Queen's Gambit, both sides move their queen's pawn, and then white offers the Queen's Gambit here, with the idea that we want black to take that pawn. That's what you want as the Queen's Gambit player. You want them to take this pawn, and then you want to, you want to start getting your pieces out. And if black tries to defend that pawn, then they are absolutely doomed because there's just no good way to protect that pawn that doesn't result in you losing a rook or a knight or a bishop. Because see, what we have here is they can't defend anything. They could try to move this in the way and then this, and now they can't defend the rook. They can try to defend with the queen that way, which sort of works, but white is still just wiping everything out, and it just turns very nasty from here on out, basically. So the Queen's Gambit accepted makes the game just too easy for white to win. It makes it too easy for white to win when black accepts the Queen's Gambit. And there are some other common responses. I have this weird, annoying dead skin on my lip, which is just annoying the hell out of me right now, making it hard to talk. So, a lot of the time, black will decline the gambit, and then white has some responses. They can move this pawn here to a3 to block this bishop from coming here. They can do that. But then you see some weird stuff can happen here, because then black can start getting their queen out here. And then white may think, hey, let's just attack the queen there. Well, it doesn't work because Then they sacrifice the bishop. You kill the bishop, they take your rook. And so, pawn to a3 doesn't always lead to the result you want. It doesn't really lead to the result you want. And even if we step back here a little bit, and I mean, this is still relatively good. Obviously, this is still relatively good because you chase the queen away if you bring out that bishop. But even so, I think there are better moves here. What you don't want to do in the Queen's Gambit declined is you don't want to do this. I mean, really, what the hell is this? Because then you're going to lose that knight. You can try to do something, but it doesn't really work here. There's no way to stop them from taking that knight. Best you can do is just start getting your other pieces out, but they can still take that knight. You can capture back, but knights are helpful. That's why I never recommend that. And personally, what I think the best response to the Queen's Gambit declined is I've tried many things in the Queen's Gambit declined, and I have to recommend this. This is just the best. I've studied this, I've played many games, and I just really think this is the best option. And that's why it's my current recommendation. Now, as I learn more, you have to understand that my recommendations in my Queen's Gambit book may change. If I find that I've been giving advice in my book and it doesn't really help win or doesn't help me win very much when I play, then I need to reconsider. So this is a work in progress. It's a lifelong learning experience because chess is an endless game. But this here is good. It's just good because now, after Black has blocked their own bishop from being able to get out here, it can't go past here. Now, this other bishop here can't go past here. It can't do that without this pawn killing it. So best they will try to do is they may try to get rid of that pawn, but it's no use, you see, because they can do that, they can do that, they can do that, and it just turns into this thing where you can almost permanently keep them from getting their bishops out. Sure, they can try to get their bishop out another way, but it just slows Black down, and that's why I feel like that's the best response to the Queen's Gambit decline. That's why I'm going to recommend that. And I'm going to show one more thing here before I switch to my writing application where I'm writing my book. So they may use the Slav defense. Now, this is where you got to watch out here because it's still a very good idea, obviously, to advance this pawn here. It's protected by this other pawn here, but this is where, when we see this, it probably means Black is going to try to put your king in check, which is not that much of a threat. The Slav defense isn't really that much of a threat. It doesn't really help much, but it does allow the queen to get out that way, and then you can chase the queen away, and here the queen doesn't really have that many good options. Because if it goes here, well, then, you can get this bishop out attacking it, obviously. So you do have to be careful. And besides, this is a bad example because Black normally would move out other pieces before moving their queens out. I'm just trying to show a quick example here. So anyway, that's the analysis board. Now, what I'm going to show you, though, I'm going to switch. I'm going to go to desktop view, where you view my whole desktop here. And I'm going to show you the program I'm using to write my book. So here is my desktop. There's OBS Studio. I'm going to go to Ghostwriter. Now here you see, on the left is the plain text. This is the actual text. This book here that I'm working on is written in Markdown. So we have pound signs or hashtags to say that it's, heading 1, heading 2, that sort of a thing. And chapter 0, which is just about done, is an introduction. So what it does here is I write about the Queen's Gambit and explain a little bit of it. So there's a lot here, but there's also pictures. This text here is how I actually embed pictures. So you'll see here is a picture of the Queen's Gambit. Well, first we see the Queen's Gambit, what it looks like here, and then we see if it's accepted, we have smaller pictures. See, I can make the pictures smaller here. So this is similar to what I just showed you on the Lichess analysis board, except I took the care to custom design these pictures with the Merida set of pieces and the exact shades of gray because I'm very, very picky about how my chess images look for my books. As you will notice if you read Chastity's chess chapters, I spent so many hours designing the pictures and naming the files, uploading them to WordPress. I'll never get back all that time of my life. Please buy my books, people. Otherwise, the hundreds of hours I spent designing pictures and writing and editing it would be wasted, and that would be a tragedy. Anyway, the point is, this shows what can happen. If black accepts the gambit, in this example, we see that white moved the king's pawn 2 squares. And then we see this bizarre example here where they try to defend it, and it doesn't work. It just doesn't really work here. So anyway, that's a lot of pictures there. So here's the thing. Let's see here. Okay, so this here is this is the notation here where we see d4, d5, c4. This is like the string of notation. So this is where the Queen's Gambit position has been reached, but the Gambit has not been accepted or declined or anything. It's just the basic position. 3 moves have been made. And notice here we have good moves for black. And I mentioned e6, defend the d5 pawn by moving the king's pawn to e6. So like I'm mentioning here what the common options here, what like if you're in this position and you're black, you want to use either the Queen's Gambit decline or the Slav defense, either pawn to e6 or pawn to c6, and then bad moves. And I mentioned that accepting it is a bad move. If you're black accepting the Queen's Gambit, it's just a bad move. I mean, yes, you can still go on to win, but it just makes it harder. Trust me on this. Unless you are some kind of master who finds some way to turn it into an advantage, obviously. You know, so here we have the Queen's Gambit declined here. And in this Queen's Gambit declined position, we see that I recommend c5, advancing the c4 pawn to c5. Just as I explained earlier, I use text here to explain my reasoning why I recommend this move. You know, and I still recommend a3, just not as strongly as c5. And then knight to f3 is still good. It's very good. It's just that it doesn't really stop the bishop from coming out, and then you having to decide what to do with it. So just be aware of that. Just be aware is all I'm saying. And so this is basically the format here. Now I'm trying to figure out the right way to do this because like in this case, I have the name of the defense or the position, and then I have the notation here, and then I have some recommendations here. Now I didn't really use that same format of good move, bad move there. Like this is a very, very early draft. I may have to rewrite this whole thing. I don't know. Now here's a section on the Alban counter gambit. Let's see here. Now this is strange. Yeah, because okay. This is a whole thing on the Alban counter gambit. I designed all these pictures as well. Like, this is really, really huge. Now, one of the things about writing books like this is that because there's pictures and because there's text, it can be very, very hard while I'm writing it because I can get lost. I can get very easily lost while writing this. And what I may have to do is I may have to just make a reference book, separate a reference book where I list the positions, list my recommended moves, and then basically I may just have to, um, you know, I then write the chapters explaining more about it. You know what I'm saying? Like, do the reference work first and then add the other stuff, including the pictures and my explanation. Well, here's the psychology behind why you use the Queen's Gambit or why you make this move. Because what that does is that turns a single chess move into a huge paragraph. And it's like, I'll never get this book done if I do that. So I have to keep it very I need to keep it brief, and I don't know how I'm going to do it, guys. I really don't know how I'm going to do it, how I'm going to keep it brief. So I may have to make like a second copy of this book as a reference, like make a Queen's Gambit reference, but then have a separate book which is later maybe combined with the reference where then it explains more about why I did this. So I don't know. I'm too tired to explain this right now because I'm working on school and I have a lot of school here. But yeah, basically that's it. So this is where it gets interesting because here with the Queen's Gambit, you can see how things just get very strange. I want to show you here how with the Queen's Gambit declined. Let's look at this. Let's look at the case knight to f3. Let's look at this. Well, this is interesting because then once the bishop comes and puts the king in check, you have to put something in the way either here or here to block that bishop. So you either have to sacrifice a bishop or sacrifice a knight. So you could what I would usually do is I would sacrifice the bishop here and then move the knight here. That seems like something that I would do because I don't like to lose my knights. Alternatively, though, it would also make just as much sense to put the knight here and then sacrifice it if you're going to sacrifice a knight. But that's not all. You also have the option to move the knight here, then the bishop takes it, and then you could either move the bishop here or you can move the knight here. And then you're kind of set up so then if they take this pawn, you could jump the knight there. Or perhaps they do that and you just get this pawn right here now they've accepted it. So the options there are endless. And it doesn't make too much of a difference. No, not really. Not really. It doesn't make that much of a difference. But I want to know, like, seriously, the reason I cover this so much is because I want to know what the objectively best move in any given position is. So when it comes to this, I need to find some method by which for determining what really the best move is. And that's going to take practice. It's going to take a lot of time. Time that I don't have tonight. I need to get to sleep, but I wrote my first chess book. I published it. And now what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to get better at chess. I'm trying to get my win rate for the Queen's Gambit higher. So it's going to take time to get my win rate higher. And that means training against humans. It means training against computers at higher levels and finding what works. How do I win with the Queen's Gambit? And if I'm the black player and the opponent uses the Queen's Gambit, how do I still go on to win? How do I decline that gambit and win with style? So it's going to take a long time. This is my short chess lesson for the night. I am very tired, too tired to play chess tonight. I have a hard life. So anyway, thank you for listening to my unhinged chess rant. So, but in the meantime, so it will probably take me another year before I can get another book published. Go look up Chastity's Chess Chapters on Amazon. You do that, please. And also, while I'm at it, why don't I just show you? If I go to Chastity's chesschallenge.wordpress.com here, let's go to the page for my book here, and let's go to the Amazon link. So you can buy this book in paperback or Kindle edition on Amazon. That's one way I recommend. Or you can go to Smashwords. I definitely recommend Smashwords for the ebook, because then once you buy the EPUB, then you can just download that, and you can send it to your email, and you can open it in literally any mobile phone books app. We're talking iBooks, Kobo, Kindle. Like, you can get books on your Kindle without buying the Kindle edition if you have an EPUB file. Just letting you know. That's why EPUB is the best ebook. Definitely recommend Smashwords for getting EPUBs, because everything on this website, Smashwords, not just my book, but the books written by everybody here are digital rights management free, meaning you're not restricted on which device you can read them on. That's very important if you are a reader of ebooks. Just wanted to point that out, and I've said enough. So thank you for listening to my chess rant and book rant. There will be more in the future, but for now, I'm signing off. Have a good night, everyone. Buenas noches.